All right, Craig. Did you take care of Greg? No. Dan. You took care of Dan, right? Yeah.
He might have taken care of Dan.
That's what I'm worried about because Dan's not here, and the owner of the podcast is here, so we're trying to make a good impression.
Yeah. I don't know where Dan's at. Maybe he'll make it back. We'll have to check behind the woodshed later on. Craig does like to take people back there.
Oh God.
Upper management's here. Keep that.
Oh, right, yeah. Hi, Shelly. Welcome to the wrestling podcast that we do every week.
Your wrestling podcast.
Right, my wrestling podcast.
Yes. But I think I'll just get into what we normally do this time. We're the Grumpy Dungeon Masters. I'm Jay. I'm joined by my co-host, Christopher, Christian, and Shelly. Say hi, guys.
She's not really a co-host.
Let's just roll with it, man. Say hi, guys.
Hello there.
Hi.
She can do it wrong. She's allowed. She owns it.
She got a half right.
I guess. I mean, say hi, guys.
Yeah. See, I was going to, but I thought that was going to be too on the nose.
See? Yeah, no, Chris bitches and complains every single week because Christian has never said hi, guys.
Nor will I.
Nor should you. So where can they find our podcast at?
You can find our podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find our podcast on YouTube, and you can catch some amount of the Grumpy Dungeon Masters streaming on Twitch at Grumpy Dungeon Masters. We stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're currently going through the Temple of Evil and Celasta Crown of the Magisters. On Saturday, you can catch Grumpy Dungeon Master Christopher with his D&D 5e game, World Born Dead.
Yeah.
And since I could put her on the spot, are you enjoying the campaign, sweetie?
Of course.
She's lying. She hates it.
Upper management can lie and get away with it. It's fine.
Yeah. It's full of squids. I use a new monster on them this week from the Tome of Beasts. And it was a glass cannon, but they didn't realize it, and they're just like looking at this thing. It's like, holy shit, what is this thing? And I love it when I get a monster that the other players just don't, know. Like Dimitri, my one player, he knows the monster man. He's the imps. So to throw a monster out there that is just totally off the wall, it's a good time. Like he was like, it must be the Draco Lich, but corrupted or something, and they put up a fight. They enjoyed it. I hope.
Yeah,
they lived. They didn't die.
That's always good, I guess. Unless you want to start a new campaign. So this week we have Shelly on here because we decided we're going to talk about Crooked Moon in depth finally, because we had talked about it some when the Kickstarter was running around, and then we talked about it a little more when the PDFs came out. Now we actually have the physical product in hand. Everybody here has the physical product, so we can actually talk about it and what we got. Was it worth it?
Well, I don't have it. I didn't buy it, but my wife did, hence why she's here, because she saw that little plushy raven, and she's like, I have to buy this. So I put all the photos of what my wife bought in our podcast channel, so you can see the pictures of the things that we got. And it's quite a bit.
Yeah, so Shelly, you got the deluxe set, which is like the whole shebang, right?
Yes.
And how happy How happy with it are you overall?
With what I got, I'm very happy with it. Very impressed. The only things I didn't get was like the tokens. I think is the only main thing that my package didn't come with. I laid it out so I could like look at it and chat about it real quick. But the box itself is super cool. Just like having the storage of it and everything, and having the graphic on the top. All the dice are really nice. I really like that a lot. And I'm not a big fan of sharp edge dice, but these are amazing quality dice. And then the all the pins, I collect pins, so I've got all of those are really cool. The tactical map pack I thought was a neat thing, just because I'm kind of looking at it from the stance of somebody that doesn't really have a lot of the physical stuff to look at for things like this. So I thought it was really cool to have that, and the like cloth map was really cool. But honestly, my favorite part is the card sets that it came with. I thought, I mean, again, since I've not really ever bought a set like this, I don't know how common stuff like this is, but I
That's
thought that
not.
the fact
It's
that it's
not
not
super common. No.
okay. So just to have like the NPCs on a card that you can reference or the monsters and stuff like that. And then the encounters too. I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I got the $150 one. Basically, you got the stuff you got that I did not get was the plush, all of the extra pins, the metal dice, and the boxes are different, as well as the book cover. Also, I noticed yours has 2 ribbons on it. I'm super
Yes.
I'm super jealous. I wanted 3 ribbons when I saw the size of this book, and mine only has 1. It's very disappointing.
I mean, how many pages is the book? Like 600?
It's over
Something like that.
600. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So to start off, literally my complaint is the size of that book. I didn't even want to back this Kickstarter. I had no intentions of backing this Kickstarter. And they hit me with the freaking advertising over and over and over and over and over for about 2 months. And on the last fucking day, I'm like, all right, I'm in. I'm sold. So backed it, and I'm very, very happy I did. I would have been very disappointed if I hadn't gotten this.
Yeah,
I
I'll
think
say. Oh, go ahead, Shelley.
Sorry. I think I backed it on like the second day. I saw the advertisement for it like on Facebook or something like that. And I like it hooked me immediately. It's my vibe. And
Same.
just from the stuff that they had, just that they were advertising what they were gonna come with at the beginning was enough for me. I was like, this is awesome. I want this.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
vibe and the feel was correct for me. Sorry, go ahead, Christian.
No, I was same thing. I love the kind of folk horror, and I think they nailed it with the artwork and with the content inside. I only bought the book. This was just I didn't really know who this crew was, and it was kind of their first time doing a Kickstarter, so I was a little wary on something this massive. So I was like, oh man, is this going to be one of those ones that kind of collapses under its own weight? So I only got the book, and now seeing it all come in, I have regrets because all that stuff, seeing the pictures of all the stuff that Shelly got, I'm like, oh man, I wish I had gotten those pins and that plush and the tarot cards and stuff, and the DM screen is awesome. Like, so I have a little bit of overly cautious remorse after seeing all this stuff. I hope they have some of it for sale later.
Yeah, I did not get the tarot cards, and now I hope I'm able to get a hold of the tarot cards, because that's the one thing.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, I did get. I got the other cards, which we will talk about on here. But the tarot cards look really cool, and honestly, inside the book, there's a lot you can do with the tarot cards.
I saw that.
So. Where do we want to start? What do we want to start on the book? I guess. I have an idea. How about for people who aren't familiar with what Crooked Moon is, it is a Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition setting. When you ordered it, you were able to get either 5th edition or 5.5. I got 5.5. I don't know what everybody else got.
Same. I got the 2024. Yeah, 5.5.
Okay. And what it is a folk horror setting. And like I said, it's a massive, massive book. That book comes with all new playable races, species, whatever you call them. It comes with subclasses for every single class. Some of the classes actually have multiple subclasses. It comes with a adventure that will run you up to 13th level. And it comes with a lot of new monsters and spells. which is things I like.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, looking at the book here, like, and this is just so you can get the scale of the adventure of this 630 something page book. The adventure starts on page 135. So the first 134 pages are your like kind of intro to the setting, kind of telling people what to expect, what is folk horror, talking about the player options, and a little bit of about the kind of land that you find yourself in, and some new backgrounds and feats and all that. From 135 through 630 something, that's all a long campaign going through, and in the campaign itself there's more details about. They kind of save some of the like detailed zoom in on some of the places you'll go for the adventure when you go there.
That's interesting.
And yeah, I thought it was like the kind of the first place where your starting place is something they only kind of briefly go over, and then in the very beginning part of the adventure they kind of go in depth on this town of Wickermore Hollow, and about the people in the town and what the town's like. It was an interesting choice, and I don't know if they do that because they kind of, the first part is kind of a player's thing, and so you get just kind of a brief overview of each of the sections, enough to know like some stuff my character might know, and the in-depth stuff is for the game master, I assume.
Yeah. Yeah, so when they released the PDFs, they released two PDFs. One of them is a player's PDF, and the other is Game Master PDF. The Game Master one, basically, it's the entire book. It's everything we have here. But the player's PDF is just the character classes, the species, etc., spells, things like that. So they won't ever get access to the monsters. They won't get access to the adventure. I still do wish they had split this into multiple books. Having the adventure as a separate book and the monsters as a separate book would have been nice, but is what it is.
So I guess so, Shelley. You as someone who plans to run this for me, and so as someone who wants to play it and ruin your good time, how does is that going to work for you? Like normally, like you have the DM's guide, the player's guide, and then the campaign books are separate. But since it's all rolled into one, and the world, I guess, kind of becomes unveiled to you as you DM through the campaign setting, is that going to matter to you, or is that something that you'd wish that they had separated the world into its own section and left the campaign by itself?
I mean, I kind of feel like as somebody that's a little bit of a newer player and a very new DM, I agree. I think it would have been much better to have them separated, just kind of as an ease of use kind of thing. I almost feel like I would have to like read the book ahead of time before I really ran a campaign with it so that I could feel comfortable with everything. I mean, it's especially because the book is so big. It's divided into sections, and the two ribbons I have in my book would be very helpful. But yeah, it would have made a lot more sense, I think, to have it divided up a little bit, just for ease of use, because even somebody with a higher skill level is going to have the same amount of flipping through pages to try and figure out where things are. Now, as far as like being able to have like the PDF separate for the players, that at least you've got that. You can have the players have that. And you don't have to worry about it. But just even still, it's such a large thing to have to fiddle with to figure out where you're going, unless you have a lot of time ahead of time to prepare, like to read the book or to take notes out and copy down different things. I think you have a lot more prep work involved with having a single volume like that.
Yeah, and I assume that this is probably cost was probably a factor in making it one book. I assume if they had split it into 3 books, there would have been a cost factor that that was at play there.
We definitely don't know how they priced it out, and and how stuck they were with the Kickstarter. Whether or not they had the backing to like turn it into multiple books. But it kind of feels like they didn't think they were going to have this massive tome, and then it turned into this massive tome.
Yes,
Um,
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree. It feels like they were not expecting the level of success that they had.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact amount, but I think this thing broke $2 million. Like it was a
Yeah,
big Kickstarter.
They hit all of their stretch goals and stuff like that, and I know that added in a lot of content. So they were probably eyeing a 300, 400 page book, and there was like, okay, well, now that we have all this extra stuff, here's some of the
I will
200 pages.
say, as somebody that's run stuff a lot, there's different schools of thought, and there are different kinds of DMs that like their stuff kind of laid out differently. But I do kind of like, and I think this is actually pretty beneficial to newer GMs, is that as the adventure is kind of laid out in chapters of, different chapters, kind of a different adventure, but it kind of lays out like where you only really need the details contained in each chapter. So you're not getting the whole, like, I have to memorize the whole world to start running the game. You could literally just read the chapter adventure you're going to go and be like, okay, this gives me the information I as a GM need to know to run this part of the adventure.
Well, that's nice. I like that. That makes it sound like if you want to do like one shots too, that might
Yeah.
make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, you absolutely could if you wanted to. Yeah. Yeah, like you probably should read the entire adventure, but you truthfully only need to read that first chapter before you can start running it.
Hmm.
One thing I just noticed, I hadn't flipped through the entirety of this book, but the battle mats that they gave us with the box set, they actually have those same battle mats inside the adventure, and it's telling you when to use them and where to use them.
Yeah.
Oh.
The battle nets, not to jump ahead, but when I was looking at those, I personally don't like them, but the fact that they were very specific to the book, and the fact that you have them and you can easily just lay them out, you can't use them really for anything else, like any other setting. Like all the battle maps that I have, that I can just like generic. Here's a forest trail. They don't really have those, but they have like their key points of interest as the battle maps, and they range them so like you could just splay them out on the table pretty easily, and it looks like it's going to work really well. I wasn't a fan at first, but when I saw that it was in the book and we're using it quite heavily, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. So I will, just overall for me, as somebody who is pretty much done with D&D and 5th edition, this is actually something that says, you know what, I would play or run 5th edition for this. This is a cool enough piece of work that, yeah, I would go there for this.
That was sort of the thing. Like I didn't want to back it because I wasn't planning on running 5e stuff going forward. But then, now that I actually have this in hand, I'm like, okay, I will actually run this. I'm actually looking forward to running this. Um, Feeling about settings matters a whole lot for me. I know it does for you too, Christian. If I see a setting and the artwork doesn't do it for me, then I'm probably just gonna shrug my shoulders and move on. But the art for this got my interest at least enough, and then all of the art within the book is actually really, really, really nice art, things that appeal to me. It's all just a little wonky, a little weird, and not bland and boring. Like even the pictures of all of the races and the subclasses and everything, like it's all interesting art.
Yeah, agree.
Do you all have a piece of art that you like the most?
I wouldn't say that the most, no, but every bit of it is very interesting to me.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of good pieces in here. There's one in one of the scenes that's like almost like a stained glass window with some like woman with crazy hair rising up under the like crooked moon. That is just, it's awesome. That one stood out to me.
I love how we're just off on all sorts of tangents here.
Shelly, was there any artwork you liked the most?
Same kind of thing. Like all of it is amazing. I really love the book cover. The whole book cover, the front
Your
and the
book
back.
cover. You got the collector's
Yes.
one.
Yeah,
Yes.
hers is definitely different looking.
Yeah, this is very cool. And then like the little quotes on the back and everything with the little drawn folklore image and stuff like that. I love it. This is so cool. And just looking at it like gets me excited about it. Like what Jay was saying, like the art has to be relevant and interesting. And like this I feel like really draws you in to say, wow, this looks really cool. Let's do this.
Yeah.
The map is also an excellent piece of artwork with its, stuff on the sides, and just the making of the map itself is just, this is not only an interesting map, but it is art into itself, and that was a really neat thing I liked. I also like my non-deluxe cover, still an excellent cover. It's very big Wicker Man vibes.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is underneath the crooked moon.
Yeah.
So the map you're talking about is the cloth map.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like every time I've shown this to all of my players, and the first time every one of them would see it, they'd start unboxing it, and they'd hit that map, and then be like, "This is amazing!" And then they have to flip it over and realize, "Oh, the back is different." Like it shows, part of it is the entire setting, and then part of it is just where you're going to run the adventure in the book. So let's take a look real quick at folk horror, because I told one of my players that it was a folk horror game, and his first response was, "Oh, like Bigfoot and Mothman?" And I was like, that's not exactly accurate. I mean, I guess Mothman's kind of in the vein, but they actually do a really good job of kind of describing what folk horror is. And I might have read it on the podcast a long time ago with the PDFs, but just to sort of recap, they actually have on the DM screen what's referred to as the folk horror chain. And it's 4 key aspects to define a folk horror story, forming an interconnected narrative chain. Emphasizing these links in each encounter, session, and adventure reinforces the themes of the Crooked Moon. The first one is the landscape. A remote setting, often rural or agricultural, isolates characters. The environment cuts them off from the broader world. Then you have isolation. The people in these landscapes exist outside civilization, both physically and ideologically. Then there's the skewed morality. The seclusion leads to distorted worldviews, often steeped in superstition, the occult, or hostility towards outsiders. And then the last one is the happening. At the story's climax, this warped morality triggers a violent or supernatural occurrence. It's sort of the idea of you're living in a world with monsters and with horrors, but humanity or mankind, or in this case, whatever species you are also monsters and horrors. As sort of an example, has everybody here seen the Witcher 4 trailer for the new game? You didn't ever watch it?
Yes.
I didn't know, because I don't pay attention to Witcher.
Okay, well, if I highly recommend going there and watching that trailer, because that trailer is exactly what they are describing. It basically has Cirilla chasing down this monster for a local town who was going to sacrifice a girl to that monster. And she ends up freeing the girl, tracks down the monster, kills the monster, comes back to the town, and the town has just killed the girl. They are as bad as the fucking monster. And that's very much sort of the theme of this setting.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I've seen the Legend of Evantris guys, and they don't give off this kind of vibe,
I mean, look, there's still going to be humor. There's some silly stuff. The book itself, even the classes and the races, some of them are kind of silly. The naming of a lot of them is very just ridiculous. Let's see, what we have the Curseborn, which are werewolves.
Yeah.
They live in Edwardia and they dress like it's the Victorian period. So yeah, there's definitely a little silliness and campiness. But
Yeah, the whole thing is a little bit more like it's not strictly medieval. It's a little more advanced. It's a little more Victorian. There's a little bit of that Victorian age kind of stuff in here as well. Enough for them to talk about, the guy behind all this is like a man of science.
Yeah, well, it's
in the
okay.
weird way in which science was some way always mixed with a little bit of like mysticism back in the day.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different towns or countries, states, whatever they are. Each one of them is sort of a different setting. Like Edwardia, where the Curseborn are from, it's very much Victorian era. It's mad scientists, like Christian's talking about. But then there's Chernabos, which is where they're not tieflings, but they're little devilkin that you can play. It's sort of 1930s era gangsters almost.
It's a weird mix of like Wild West, like Gold Rush Wild West, but they're searching for hell iron instead of gold.
Yeah.
But it's still that kind of frontier justice with but it's like it's the whole landscape is really close to hell. And so but you're searching on like somewhere in the kind of nebulous borders of the real world, or this Crooked Moon world and hell. And it's kind of a frontier mining town kind of thing.
But you have the NPC whose name is Old Mr. Scratch, who's he's a devil with red skin, gold eyes, and wears a pinstripe suit.
Yep.
So kind of 1920s, 30s gangster era. And at the same time, you have another one, Bubonia. Yeah, like I said, some of the naming conventions are a little ridiculous, but Bubonia is obviously set in a very medieval setting. They're dealing with the bubonic plague and shit.
Yeah.
So.
This one's very plague driven. Yeah, all the settings are neat. It's like there's some echoes of some homages to like Ravenloft. This is kind of in the way that each province is kind of its own thing, but the whole thing is kind of a neat campaign. As they preface this, is that like everyone that's starting out arrives here because they died, and you have been stuck between where you were supposed to go, either because you made some sort of weird deal or something else draw you into here. So you've been reborn as to one of these things. I think they have explanations there somewhere why you're these kind of twisted new species.
Yeah. You mentioned real briefly that it's sort of an homage to Ravenloft. I just want to point out that one of the NPCs, who makes the I don't know what they're called, the toy people. I don't remember all the names, but his name is Blinsky II.
Yeah.
So if you're familiar with the Curse of Strahd, Blinsky was the toy maker. So.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff in there. It's a really neat, well done setting. As far as I think you're right, Chris, in that the guys that play, they don't play in the style, but if you actually pay attention, they even kind of address this, is that the stories they're telling as they're playing are still very much these folk horror stories. But as they themselves were just a bunch of friends playing D&D, and so it has all the antics of you and your group of friends at the table, joking around, even in the midst of like whatever kind of horror setting you're playing, because the horror is about what's happening to the characters, not the players, right? Yeah. So your characters are still involving weird things, but you're really still just a group of friends that are goofing off, having fun, playing D&D together.
Yeah, I mean, when we played Curse of Strahd, it was not serious, despite it being a very serious campaign and setting. But we're a bunch of goofballs.
Throwing it back to Shelley, for this setting, how do you see us playing it?
As much as I would like it to be serious, I don't think it would be. I don't know. It kind of depends, because I feel like kind of like what y'all are saying is it has a serious front to it, but there's enough whimsy, I guess, underneath, that it doesn't need to be a horror setting necessarily, where it's something really scary and really spooky. It's just a little odd, and I think that that would work for us. Even if I ran it for our online group, or if we had people in person, depending on what we decide to do, I think it would still work because it doesn't have to be super serial to be fun, but it also can have serious elements to it.
Did you just say super serial?
I did.
For
Okay.
And it
cereal.
doesn't, yeah, and it doesn't have to be like, it's not a binary decision. Like it can
Yeah.
be serious at times, and also then somebody cracks a weird joke, and you guys are, laughing for the next 20 minutes and goofing off.
Right.
That's how it usually goes, I find.
Yes. I think it would work for this too.
Yeah, like that's pretty much how every tabletop game I ever play goes.
I mean, I feel like I always run a serious game, and a lot of that's just down to like the session zero. We're not cracking jokes all the time, but there's still moments of levity. It just. But I can definitely see, like, I remember looking through the cards when we were going through it, Shelley, and like
Mhm.
some of them were very like drawn and a very serious, dark, like pencil style, and then you had that one card of like that stupid like bubble alcohol moonshine guy. Like you can't have that without thinking something's up and something's funny going on. So
The crocodile guy that runs like, let's see if I can find it in here real quick. That is like the Mardi Gras
yeah.
themed, I think. That has the big crocodile. I can't remember which card that was.
But,
Yeah, that looks like that would be a lot of fun. That's not going to be super serious or anything like that. But
but I think
kind of in that same vein, the encounters some of them are very, serious sounding encounters that they could be scary, I guess. And then they had that one that I was reading you where you were trying to set up two inanimate objects on a date. Like, it just kind of depends, I guess.
and I think that could be a good play, because if it's just like super, grim and dark all the time, like that starts to kind of, you start to lose the horror of it at that
Yeah.
point. You start to lose the kind of thing. You just kind of get inured to it and you get used to it. But if you have some stuff that's terrible, but then the next thing they know, they're doing something weird with two inanimate objects, it makes the next time they get hit with something, creepy, it keeps you off your balance. You never know, like, is this going to be a weird thing? Is this going to be horrifying? Is this going to be silly? I don't know what I'm going to get hit with.
Hmm.
Yeah, the players, like your characters, are generally supposed to be sort of a beacon of light in the darkness. So you're going to have some sort of levity to go with the horror. It's not a
Right.
horror
And
movie that we're watching here.
right.
Even
And
those
that
have levity.
I think that would be boring, really, if you had just that all the time.
Yep, I
I
agree. I think I just heard your cat snoring.
Yeah, he is.
Lord.
So,
Oh yeah, I hear him every few days. He'll be snoring into the microphone just like that.
I don't know, I'll just
so
leave it in.
Oh,
there is one
I don't
thing
edit it. I never edit it.
I will call out as I know we've looked through different Unearthed Arcana and different release stuff of D&D a lot over the course of this podcast, and we've kind of repeatedly kind of taken WotC to task for their playing it safe, the lack of creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Man, all of the subclasses they have in here for players are not only just dripping with narrative flavor and are super thematic for the setting, but mechanically they're interesting and they try new things and do different things than WotC does. And this is just when I look at stuff like this, I constantly go, well, why can't we get official stuff that is this good?
You're
Right.
not wrong.
Yeah, I was talking with a guy at Adventures League this week, and he was asking me about. So we were just talking really about the books and whatnot, and he said what I was looking forward to, and I was like, well, nothing from WotC. It was all going to be third player stuff from this point out, because that's where all the creative minds have gone, and that's where, you know, all the creativity is probably gonna be able to push the bounds of, you know, what is marketable, I guess, and let people actually play a setting that's a little dark, a little twisted, a little crazy, like Crooked Moon is.
Yeah. This is the first thing I've seen in a long time that actually had subclasses that I was like, I really kind of want to play that. I kind of want to talk about one of them real quick. The Wizard Occultist.
Yes.
Yeah, I knew Christian would be in on this one. I have an absolute love for playing wizards and sorcerers and spellcasters. I saw this and I'm like, this is creative. I love this. I want to freaking play this. I'm not going to read the entirety of it, but the basic idea is that you get an intrusion die that can range from a D2 all the way up to a D12. I think it starts off at a D6. Every time you want to use an ability to adjust your spells or gain your powers, you have to roll that die. If you roll a 1, then you have an intrusion happen onto you, and there's a random chart of up to 12 different intrusions. Most of these intrusions are that's some outsider interfering with what you're doing. Most of the intrusions are a little bit good and a little bit bad. So just as an example, I'll read one of them. Let me find a good one. Yeah, so like you experience an instant of terrible clarity. You take psychic damage equal to 2 rolls of your intrusion die at its starting size. And for 1 minute, your spell save DC is increased by 2. So you're taking some damage, but you're getting a benefit out of it. And that's what most of them are. Some of them are just good. Some of them are just bad. But you can, you can also force intrusions to happen to guarantee results. But
yeah, like it's a very creative, like this is a neat subclass as opposed to just here's an abjurer, here's a a necromancer, or here's the blade singer.
Yep. One thing I did find interesting is at level 6 you get reality tear, which is kind of powerful. You can take a warlock spell of level 3 or lower and always have it prepared. You can change your chosen spell when you finish a long rest. When you cast the spell, you can risk intrusion to remove the need to concentrate on it, and the spell ends after 1 minute or its normal duration, whichever is shorter. I love anything that's not going to make me have to sit there and concentrate on a freaking spell, because sometimes I want to be able to have 2 spells going at the same time.
Yeah, no, I think that's great because it's always a risk, and you know that you're going to get used to doing it and not always taking the risk. And so at some point, you're going to pull that, you're going to get an intrusion, and it's going to cause havoc for the party at the wrong time.
Oh, yeah, because some of the intrusions will hit party members. They'll hit you and everything within a range of you. And also, the more times you risk intrusion, the greater the chances, because you start off on a D6. The first time you risk intrusion, it then goes down to a D4, then a D3, then a D2. So the more times you do this, the greater the odds.
I thought that was a really the kind of where it changes the number of things that you do, like how your dice change and stuff like that. Like I thought that was a really neat mechanic that they use in other things. Like I was looking at the items that you get, and they've got one, it's a toy riverboat, and basically I'll just read you what it says. It says haunting curse. When a creature leaves the riverboat, it must make a DC 0 charisma saving throw. On a failed save, the creature is cursed. So, okay, it starts at DC 0, but then as you go in, it says after you make the saving throw, the DC increases by 2.
Ah.
So that's a couple different items and a couple different spells and stuff like that have that, where as you go along, the DC changes a little bit. It either goes up or goes down depending on what it's doing. And I thought that was a really cool mechanic, kind of in the same vein of what you're talking about, is you don't know what's going to happen because there's not a chance to get, you can't look at it and say, well, I've got a good chance to do this because I know what my roles are going to be. You know what I mean? Like this
Mhm.
adds that little bit of extra unknown to it, I thought.
It
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
magic feel a little less reliable. Like it is a
Yes.
thing that you can use, but it also can make it feel more tempting. Like, oh, this isn't that hard. I'll just use it. Oh, DC 0, no problem. DC 2, no problem. Eventually, you get it up to the point where you're going, do I need to use this? Oh, but this power is so good. I could probably make a DC 12 save, right? Yeah.
Now it's a DC 14. Getting a little
Yeah.
worried here.
It feels like they really did play a lot with the different mechanics that you wouldn't see in a standard WotC product, you know. And it kind of goes back to what I said. It's like all the creative juices have moved away to these third party settings and third party publications, so people can play with unique ideas that people have been homebrewing for years.
Yeah, that really does seem to be the case. I don't even know necessarily that it's the people have fled from WotC. It's just that the higher ups in WotC will not allow the creativity at this point, which is
Well, and
forced out.
that
It's definitely forced out people. Sorry, go ahead.
it has forced out people, but the other thing too is because you have the focus is being turned elsewhere. So now it's not just on, okay, what's WotC going to put out next? Now you have the ability, because it's not there, you have the ability to look elsewhere and say, well, there's these third party people that have been probably doing this for a while, but nobody really noticed it until it got to the point where your usual stuff was not where it should, not at the level you want. So now you have the opportunity to look other places and for people to really kind of show what they can do and not be in line behind a much bigger company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there have always been very, very creative
Mhm.
companies out there making D&D products since, I mean, since pretty much the beginning.
Mhm.
They've always been there. It's just a lot of times, I'm as bad as anybody. I tend to prefer to get official stuff.
Right.
That,
Crooked Moon
that
is one of the rare exceptions.
and that was one of the, I think, in the olden days where you had things like Dungeon and Dragon magazine, you kind of gave them an ability to take chances, and it would still kind of have that blessing of officialness, right? You're in the official publication of the company, but you're not in a core product, so they could take weird chances with things and have a little more creative freedom, and it shows. There's some really cool stuff sitting out there in issues of Dungeon and Dragon magazine
Mhm.
because they were allowed to just kind of go, oh yeah, we're gonna get wild and put out there of, here's how you play an ogre magi as a PC, and and all kinds of other stuff that might not have seen it into a core product where they want to kind of maintain their quote unquote purity. But here, in those pages, they could do that. Well, when you cut those kind of things, you lost all that output where you were allowing people that didn't work for WotC. You had some WotC people writing in those, but you also allowed articles from other people. Well, when you cut that output, they're going to take their creativity somewhere, and third-party press and products have now become the source of that cool creativity.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. And yeah, we don't have anything like Dragon or Dungeon anymore per se. Just don't have magazines anymore.
Yeah, that is true.
And like directly from the makers of Dungeons and Dragons, you get the Unearthed Arcanas, which are just sort of previews of what they're going to put out. For a while, I know they were actually doing feedback on those. I don't even know if they are anymore.
They still are taking feedback, but it's become just kind of that. It is their survey mechanism to put something out there and then be like, did we hit our metrics enough to release this thing? Where it used to be, even in 5th edition, for a while they were using Unearthed Arcana as just a way to be experimental, to put out weird things that maybe didn't make it into a book, but they were like, hey, we wrote this thing, we think it's kind of neat. We couldn't really find a place for it in a book, or it didn't pass, certain standards, but we still think it's neat enough to share with you guys. So here is a spellless ranger. Here is some weird new weapon rules we made, or some weird races that we put out there, or some interesting feats. We'll just throw them out here for you to use or not use as you want.
Yeah, now I think they still use DM's Guild or Drive Through RPG for that kind of stuff. Now they just let everybody else kind of throw ideas out there, and they make profit off of it.
Yeah. Well, so focusing back on Crooked Moon, we talked about the book, a cool subclass from it. Talk about the campaign a little bit, the paper map, the pins. A quick note on the pins, since my wife collects the pins. Wife, how did you like the pins?
They're very cool. Like, I'm gonna scooch over here and look at them again. They are. It's so much stuff. I had to spread it out on the bed to look at it.
It was a lot of stuff.
It was in a very small box.
So they've got. I'll get to the big pins in a second, but I'm not sure if everybody got. I know they had all the stretch goals with all the different pins and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if everybody got the same ones or not. But the 5 packs. There's 3 5 packs of pins, and they're just like the different logos from the I guess major players in the campaign. There's the clown guy. There's the Horned King, which is just the big creepy looking goat.
Yeah.
There's the Crooked Moon. There's a couple different like creatures, I think. So those were really cool. But my favorite are the 2 that came in a separate box, and it's a big ass grinning crescent moon that's all like bumpy and scary looking. But then it came with a like a I guess it's probably the Horn King skull with the 3 red eyes, and then it's got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 horns, and it's huge. It's a massive pin,
Yeah,
and it's just so cool.
I did get the Crooked Moon pin, and these are hefty sized pins. Like, they're not
Yes.
small. It's probably 2.5, 3 inches across.
Easily, yeah. And that's I thought that was really neat because like the little pins, like those are probably pretty easy to throw together. But just having like the bigger pins like that, I follow a lot of like independent artists on like BackerKit now, and they have their little characters and they sell pins of them, stuff like that. So I get a ton of pins now, and the little ones are, those are pretty common, but a lot of times they'll have like bigger ones that are extra, and it's easier to do detail, I guess, probably because they're bigger, but they're a much nicer like thing to have because that's going to stand out a lot more, like in my cool little pin book that I have. So I really thought that was cool.
She had collected so many pins and they were just in a box. I found this really cool like 3-ring binder that you could like poke the pins into and like flip through it like it's a like a trading card binder.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
But it's like styrofoam pages, and you just push the pin down into it. And it's got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 pages. And they are thick enough to double side them. So I've got 8 pages of pins. I've got enough room to fit in all these Crooked Moon ones, and then I think I'm done. I'd have to get another binder after that. But it's very cool. It's a cool way to display them so that you can actually look at them, because they're so big, I'd worry about putting it like on a bag or something like that because I would worry we'd get caught on something. But I think it's a really cool like display piece.
So let's talk about the cards.
One second before we get to some of the other peripheral, there's a couple other things in the book that I want to just briefly discuss that I thought were really cool.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
One of them are the dark bargains.
Oh yeah.
These are interesting things where you get something that is definitely a power up to your character, but all of them have a weird cost. Like there is one that is a bestial awakening where you always have polymorph prepared and you can cast it once without a spell slot or components, and it can only affect yourself.
Weren't those part of the card sets too?
Maybe
Dark
there's something
Bargains?
on these in the cards, but so you can put this on yourself, but there is an effect. Your downside is Searing Silver. Damage from silver weapons ignores any resistance or immunity to damage you have. If you take damage from a silver weapon or touch silver with your bare skin or its equivalent, you cannot regain hit points until you finish a short or long rest.
Wow.
Yes.
You just can't get hit points back.
You're a werewolf, Harry.
Yeah, no, the Dark
So-
Bargains are really good.
There's a lot of them in there, and they all have really neat effects and really weird downsides. There's one like collector stories where you get the ability to use legend lore, but every time you use it, some NPC that you have made friends with forgets entirely who you are and that you've ever interacted with them. And even if you reintroduce yourself and try to rekindle it, you always make them feel unsettled and have disadvantage on all checks against them or with them. So
Oh,
they
man.
all do some really cool things that kind of add to the setting. Also in the back, there's an Appendix C called Chaotic Curses. These are a bunch of curses that are mostly roleplay stuff, but you really have to lean into them, and they're meant to only last, somewhere between 15 and 30 minutes of real time. Something you can't remove with a real curse. They just last a short amount of time, and you change the way your character asks for that amount of time. And they can come from drawing, from having tarot readings, from effects of magic items, from being cursed by NPCs, witches and hags and that sort of thing. There's 156 of them, and they are glorious. Like one of them is you lose all sense of direction. No matter what you do or what anyone tells you, you believe that you are lost and will never find your way. Or one that says you are immortal. You are not.
Yeah. There was another one like that. You believe you are turning into a were creature. You are not.
Yeah. Just a whole bunch of fantastic little curses that is going to make your character act or behave in a probably either self-destructive or negative way for a short period of time, but it will really add flavor to the game.
That last one you mentioned, that's actually one of the skits that they did on their show. One of the main characters who was already a tabaxi, the DM, the lady DM was like, you, by the way, you think you're turning into a were version of yourself, but you're not really. And so he basically starts acting like he's like, guys, it's a full moon. I'm turning. He takes off his clothes. It's like, you gotta get away from me.
Yeah.
And everyone else was standing there looking at him like, dude, put your clothes back on.
Or like one of his like, you believe that you can communicate over great distances via howling.
Oh, man. Every creature you see appears to have humanoid teeth.
That's creepy.
Oh, yeah.
Just a great thing I wanted to highlight. Those two things are really cool things that really add some character to the setting, give you either some fun role play or an interesting power, but it's there. It's with that same theme of, this is power at a price. This is tempting you to use these cool abilities, but making you pay a price for doing so.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I love to find. Just weird, random stuff like that.
All right, into the paraphernalia. I know you guys wanted to talk about the cards and some of the other accessories.
Yeah, because what you mentioned, it reminded me, like, I remember seeing some of the cards like that. And I think one of the things that this set did well, and at the same time not well, is the cards. Like, I think, what are the three boxes of cards you guys got?
Okay,
NPCs, encounters, monsters and bosses, and items and spells.
Okay. So just as general, just from what I can remember walking through those, the NPCs and encounters, that was pretty good. Because that had the NPC cards there that you could show off to the players what somebody was, and it had some other things about them on the back. And the encounter cards, I remember Shelly, I remember you were going through those and saying, this is really cool because I can just do a deadly encounter or something like that.
Mhm.
And the items were okay, but they were, from a picture standpoint, but the back of them wasn't, it was just full of data, like too much data. We'll get more into details a little bit. But I think they also had like the NPCs that could follow you around that were kind of like items, like the moonshine guy and the little
Yes.
crooked pet. And the monsters and bosses, I think, were the worst cards in my opinion, because while they showed off the monster artwork really well, the back of the card didn't have anything that I would have wanted from those. So starting with
It didn't
the
have a stat block.
yeah, starting with the NPCs and the encounters, Jay and Shelly, since you both have those, what do you guys think about those?
Go ahead.
Okay. I thought it was really clever because, especially like with the encounters, um, it, it seems like they're mostly designed for things like during a long rest, and somebody's on watch, like that kind of thing, or when you're walking down a path in the woods and suddenly you see something off to the left. I think that's more what they were kind of going for. But I thought it was a really fun mix of cutesy, easy, stuff, and then also like, oh shit kind of moments. Um, and even something as simple as like, here's a deadly encounter. This is bathed in moonlight, and if you mess with the monster that you find in this pond, it's gonna mess you up um, if you don't defeat it. Or an easy one, which is like this one, buried offering, which is a statue. Looks like somebody's been digging around the dirt around a statue, and there's a sign that somebody had maybe unearthed something important. So it's little easy stuff like that. The kind of in between stuff when you're not necessarily in the middle of a dungeon, or you're in the middle of a boss fight, or in the middle of town and doing a lot of role play. This can kind of keep it interesting because you've got little different side quests almost that you can do. And then with the NPCs, it didn't have like the stat block kind of information, but I liked that it's got, so here's like the vagrant. It's got um if he's friendly, here's what he acts like. If he's indifferent, here's what he acts like. And if he's hostile, here's what he acts like. And
Yeah,
then
you'd like that, Christian.
Yeah, I do.
and then like at the bottom it says that this is what he drops if you kill him, basically. This is what he's carrying. So stuff like that. Like I thought that's really valuable information to have at your fingertips. Again, especially since the book is so big.
Yeah,
Yep,
the
I agree.
the the NPC cards I think will be very useful when running the campaign for sure. Like Shelley said, it sort of gives you just basics of them. You can show your players what they look like. The encounter cards I think is one of the best ideas I've seen in a long time, and I'm sad there's not enough of them in here.
Hmm. There could
uh,
definitely be more.
Yeah, I don't remember how many. There's like 30 or 40, but there's not enough of them in my opinion. But it ranges from easy to absolutely lethal, and you could just pick one if you want, or you could draw it at random if you want to be that kind of a game master. But each one of them is just a very quick encounter that you can run to add some flavor to your game. Your players are traveling along. Just as an example, here's an easy one that I pulled out. 2d6 goats graze nervously while a goat stealer watches from the trees. Then it has development. The goat stealer does not attack, it waits. If offered a goat, it devours its meal swiftly and lingers. It refuses to accept any other food other than a live goat. And that gives you two possible outcomes. If you feed it, the goat stealer bonds to the character who granted them permission. And if driven off or destroyed, the goats are saved. So it's just something that you could get a good 30 minutes of,
Yeah.
of time out of your players with stuff like that. So I really like the encounter cards. I think the NPC cards are pretty good.
So the next box was the items and spells. I did. Me and Shelly were going through them, and we found a card that already had like a printing error on it. Not a printing error, but had a copy
A
paste error.
grammatical, yeah,
Yeah.
something like that.
Oh, okay.
The card. It looks like they had written the card, but had to go back in, or maybe they were pasting this from a different template. And it's the Visage of the Old Ways. On the Fire Within rare one, it says, if you can make a bonus action to begin or stop burning. And like, I just want to take a side. It's like, this is not a knock on them. You can't produce this much material and not have some errors. It is statistically impossible. But to go through most of the book and look at a lot of the cards, and that's the only one we found really that stood out. That's fairly impressive, and they'll fix it in a different printing or something.
Sure.
But we thought that was funny. But it kind of does bring up the issue I had with these item cards, is that the item card doesn't tell you what the item really does. It tells you what the rarity of the item is. It does give you various rarities for each item. Like this Visage of the Old Way has a rare, very rare, and legendary version of it. And then there's three different kinds of rares, two different very rares, and then the legendary variant of it. But it still doesn't tell you what it does. It tells you what the individual like action or bonus action is for this item. I guess you could apply this template to something. I'm not sure. I just didn't find a good use for the items, other than maybe shuffling them and giving you a random item.
What do you mean it doesn't tell you what it does? It literally tells you exactly what it does.
No, it tells you what that rarity does. Okay. So like the Fire Within, it says as a bonus action, you can make this thing start or stop burning. Okay, so it's a flaming weapon. There's Visage of the Way is a rare flaming weapon, I guess.
No, it says while wearing the mask, you gain a bonus. You gain a bonus to your damage rolls when you deal fire damage, determined by its rarity. That's the top line.
So now it's a mask. It doesn't say that it's a mask.
Look on the card. Look on the picture, the art.
No, what I'm saying is that you have to look at the art. It has a lot of data, but it doesn't tell you what the item is. There's nothing else that goes with it. This is just the one item out of the whole bunch, like the battle axe. It doesn't have what a battle axe is or a battle axe does. It just gives you the rare item requirements of it. I just didn't like it.
I think it tells you more than enough information.
It tells me too much. I can barely read the card.
Okay, I mean, it depends. They're not all the same. They're like, I kind of see where you're going from. Like, I'm looking at two different ones here. I'm looking at Veil of the Weeping Widow, which is a lot of words on this card. Mm-hmm. So that makes sense. But it does have attributes that are rare, very rare, or legendary. But then there's also this other one, which is actually my favorite card that I found in this entire thing, for the Green Ribbon, which is just a wondrous item rare. And it tells you what it does, and it has different little effects on it, and it's very cool. So, like, I think it depends. Like, some of the stuff in here is very complicated. There's a lot of stuff to read and remember, but then it's not all of them. Some of them are just an item that does some cool stuff, and that's kind of it. So I think it depends.
I think the ones you're looking at very like special. They're no different than finding some of the like more complicated artifacts and legendary items in standard D&D. Those also have tons of different abilities that they could potentially use, and different rarities give you different, things. So it's kind of following that same framework. You're looking at a more complicated item.
Yeah. First off, a lot of these items that have the rare, very rare, legendary listings, etc. These are probably items from the module, from the campaign. I have not dug through the campaign, but I'm willing to bet you that all of these items pop up in the campaign at different points.
Well, I think some of them too, like specifically the Veil of the Weeping Widow, would drop from a boss, basically, because it's not something you're just going to find in a bag.
Yeah. I just looked at these specific ones are called what they call fabled heirlooms, and they have the rare, very rare legend because they increase in power as your character that wields them increases in power. So as you level up, you gain access to more powers from the thing that you were holding on to.
Right. Which I was gonna get to that, because when you're looking at them, they say rare plus, very rare plus, and legendary. So you're going to have access to, if you can manage to get this thing up to legendary, you have access to everything on that card.
Hmm.
So yeah, and then like you said, some of these other ones, like the green ribbon or the Hypno-Vulfin figure, are just basic magic items. They're
Hmm.
unique and creative for the game, but they're not anything ridiculous like that.
The
The
items, the spells were just spell cards. I didn't really
Yes,
have any comments or issues on those. Like I said, overall they're nice. They're not bad cards. I can only compare them to the starter set, and the starter set was kind of more what I was referencing to. Like you get a suit of +1 plate mail, and it has all the stats for plate mail on it. I can hand that card to a player. They know exactly. They don't have to ask me any questions about it. All the data, both for math and everything, is on that card. And so it's kind of standard.
You can't compare +1 plate mail to a legendary singular artifact.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So going to the third deck, because I know I don't think we have any more comments on the items and spells though.
yeah.
The monsters and bosses, I hated these. Again, comparing it to the starter set and how much I liked that a lot. Those cards were basically big 3x5 cards for the monsters in the starter set, and it had all the stat blocks. Kind of truncated a little bit to fit in that 3x5 block, but nothing was missing. It was pretty much a straight copy from the monster manual. And I could basically sit there and like put my guard card out, and I could put my zombie card out, and my Grey Ooze card, and that's all I needed. But with these monster cards, I believe it gives you like the monster, and it gives you some like legacy, or not
Okay,
legacy data.
so-
It gives you some
Hang on. So
lore, but that's about it.
So the one thing you have to know about the way they did Crooked Moon, every monster in Crooked Moon has some type of weakness, like all of them. And you don't just learn the weakness, you have to do research, you have to encounter the monsters, etc. And what these do is they give you what the weakness is, the secret to it, and then it tells you exactly how to learn that weakness so that you can use it when combating these monsters.
So where's the stat block?
Yeah,
Why is
I'm with you. I love the idea of all the monsters having weaknesses and being able to research it. Me personally, and you personally, I would have rather just had stat blocks for monsters on cards.
like that? I don't know. I guess Shelly, I'll toss that back to you as the DM who's going to be running it. What would you rather prefer? Being a newer DM.
I
Not
would
your
have
box set.
preferred to definitely have the stat block just for an ease. Like I'm pull the top card off of here and it's Alpengrendel, a brute born of mountain ice. Like I'm not gonna know offhand. Like it says large giant, but I'm not gonna know offhand even vaguely what that's gonna call for. So it would have been nice to have more information on it besides just the little bit of secret. But it's not really a deal breaker. I mean, like I feel like most people would need to have extra information anyway, and I feel like it would have expanded the size of the information available even beyond what it already is. So to cut size of things and not cut corners, but to make things a little bit easier and to have the book small as possible, it probably made sense to do it this way instead.
I think a neat way of doing it would have been, and they kind of like, I guess they're kind of splitting the card, like you can put it up there and it'll have the weakness, and maybe that's the stuff that's new, so that's what they wanted to put on the card because that's kind of a new feature for these monsters that they want to kind of put in front of your mind as the DM. So DM, you're used to getting stat blocks, and you got other tools to get them, whether they're in the book or on your PDF that's on your laptop while you're running it. So maybe they're trying to remind you. But I see the argument that it probably would have been helpful for a DM if you could have just, okay, I know I'm running these 6 monsters in this, this weekend when I run my D&D game, so I'm just going to take these 6 cards and I got my stat blocks. The other cool thing they could have done is if they really wanted to make these a player-facing thing of where you can show the art, is once you unlock the secret where you could just give the card to the player and say, okay, you've discovered the secret of this monster, so now you get this, and it gives you a little lore snippet, it gives you the weakness and maybe some little like things about it, like some signs, or that monster's in the area or something like that. And it could have just been like, you've done your homework, you fought the thing, you've done the steps, and now you get the information, and you kind of collect the monster card as something that you know about now.
Back to
You
life.
could probably still do that.
I don't know. I have an issue handing my players cards and minis, personal stuff that I don't that I want back.
Yeah, but that's because you play at Adventurers League.
No, I don't. I wouldn't trust anyone with like, okay, here's the monster card. Keep it with your profile from here on out. Like, no, I ain't doing that. Sorry. Take a photo of it. That's all you get.
Also, we found Dan.
Oh, hey guys.
Oh shit, he's here. Oh,
A wild Dan has appeared.
He's just here to talk about
I'm
psionics.
just here to talk about
Yeah.
We're kind of running long, so is there anything more you want to talk about? Like, we talked about all the things. The tarot cards look amazing. Of all the sets of tarot cards that my wife has bought, Shelly, these are the best looking ones, I think.
No, I agree. I mean, I've got a couple very nice, fancy-ish kind of sets, but this is probably my favorite so far that I've looked at.
I remember the DM screen. I looked through that, and pretty much, I do have the photo of it. So if you look at each like major section of the DM screen, one half would be like the base data, like conditions, for example. Conditions would be on one half of that part. The other half would be something related to Crooked Moon. So overall, this is actually a really fairly good DM screen, especially for Crooked Moon. Like, it would have all the condition stuff and travel times, and they'll have like Crooked Moon specific stuff as well too, kind of intermingled one after the other. So I thought that was really good.
The Game Master screen I love because it has one of the most important things I've ever seen. A random name generator.
It does have that, yeah. And so the only thing we really haven't talked about is the Raven. And the Raven's so cute.
The Burb. Yeah, I know.
The Burb. What did we name
He's
him?
very
I forgot.
I can't remember. I don't know that we named him.
Grumpy the Raven.
I can't remember.
It's a little weird too. Like, I'm not seeing anything from Crooked Moon having shown up on eBay. Usually when like new Kickstarters come out, people start selling them off, but this one, I guess everybody's just keeping everything, which means must be really good.
Yeah. So, any last minute like call outs for something amazing from this Crooked Moon set before Dan does psionics?
No, I just want them to make more adventures. Just start releasing adventures and stuff for it.
I believe the group was hired to start running campaigns for Root. So I think a lot of their creativity is going to be focused on that for a little bit. And then it might come around for another Crooked Moon Part 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
Steam Train Boogaloo. I was trying to keep it in theme.
My book says Volume 1, so maybe there's
that's a hint.
for
All right. Good deal.
All right, cool. Shelly, thank you so much for getting this. I know I said you'd be out by 10, so I'm sorry. Never happens. Yeah.
Hey, thanks for letting us do our podcast on your podcast.
Yeah,
of course. Next time, a little bit more wrestling, a little bit less D&D though.
Yeah.
We can talk about the iguana guy.
Yeah, totally. and his match with Finn Balor, where they threw puppets at each other.
Poor Demonito.
Aw. All right, Dan, kick us off with some psionics.
So let's talk psionics. It's been a while.
That's right, boys. It's Dr. Venkman.